I'm not putting you on a clock, but about another hour?
Hopefully. It depends on the amount of questions from the court.
All right, and then, Mr. Gardner, do you want to have 20 minutes to respond? You don't have to.
20 minutes would be great. I'm sure I can do it in less.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Again, court is on a break at the moment. We will go back live once it resumes. In the meantime, let's get in some analysis. Joining us now, legal analyst, former Court TV correspondent who covered the Scott Peterson trial, Beth Karras. So happy to have you with us. Still with me as well, former criminal defense attorney Kirk Nurmi. All right, Beth, I have been itching to talk to you about this case because you covered this 18 years ago when he was convicted, and now you're covering it now. Just tell us overall your thoughts on this hearing as you've been watching.
Well, I do find it interesting. I've said this earlier today that of all the issues that Scott Peterson appealed on his dual track appeal, his direct appeal based on evidence at the trial, and then the habeas, which is what's happening now based on external evidence they gathered. For example, what happened with Rochelle Nice's past that she didn't disclose in the questionnaire. And the only issues that came back for review, or which caused his death sentence to be overturned, were related to jury selection. So I feel like what's going on now is a lot of the details regarding, was it a lawsuit? What did she understand? Was she a witness? Was she a victim? You know, what if she was? And what if these are false statements? Was she biased? And frankly, the question on that questionnaire that Ted was talking about, 97A, which asked her if she could put aside her bias and just listen to the evidence in the case, and she said no. If she was a stealth juror, she would have said yes. End of story. Her bias is, or lack of bias, is proven, in my opinion. The case over. He doesn't get a new trial.
And that's what I was going to say, Beth. So the natural conclusion of that would be, in your opinion, he is not going to get a new trial. Is that where you are at this point?
Yes, I am. And I know you and Ted were saying, well, it's open to interpretation. The answer to that question could go either way. I don't see how it could help the petitioner, Scott Peterson. I think it only helps prove that she was not a stealth juror who was biased and wanted to be on this jury so she could convict him.
What do you think, Kirk? Do you think that there's an opportunity that this court might find, based on this hearing, that she was biased and therefore Scott Peterson gets a new hearing?
I do, and I think about back in the days when I was practicing death penalty work, you know, you go through all these questionnaires, there's just hundreds of them, thousands of pages. I could see how something like that might be overlooked. And here's where I disagree with Beth, because she doesn't have to be quote unquote stealth in order to be unfair, right? She has admitted on that question that she can't be fair and unbiased. That, to me, could be a really tipping point in favor of Mr. Peterson, because also we have to keep in mind when the jury was being selected, this was, as I said earlier, a death penalty case. So the jurors are, Mr. Peterson's attorneys are looking for jurors who are more life-giving than looking at the acquittal phase. So when they see something like that, or if they didn't see something like, their focus is still going to be on her ability to give life. So the criteria that they're looking at would be totally different. But now we think about everything that she's done, like we talked about earlier, the letters she's written to him, the state of mind, and how the state of California wanted to run away from that like a hot potato. That, to me, could be the tipping point in terms of saying, yeah, you know what, she wasn't fair and impartial. She even said it right here. Her actions post-trial were consistent with it, and her misrepresentations, whether designed to be stealth or not, don't really matter, because they show she's not fair and impartial. And that could be how I see this tipping the scale in Mr. Peterson's favor.
And one of the things that's interesting to me are these letters, because we know she wrote many letters, too many letters in her words, to Scott Peterson after he was convicted, which is unusual. It's just unusual behavior. We don't typically see or hear that. But Beth, let me throw that back to you. Okay, yes, she said she was biased, so she never should have been on the jury in the first place, is how I'm kind of putting that together of what Kirk just said. And as a result, she was on the jury, she was biased, tips it in favor. What do you think?
Well, first of all, what's the point of a questionnaire if you're going to miss a question and not probe, right? I mean, they really, there's no excuse that they're looking at a lot of pages and a lot of questionnaires, and this one got by them. However, did I hear the two of you discuss earlier that California law allows you, in this case, to look at post verdict conduct in order to determine one's bias, and not just like her conduct up until she's on the jury? Is if so, I did not know.
And
nonetheless, is that true?
That's what Kirk said. Yes, that's what he added to the conversation. So go ahead.
That was in the defense. That was in the defense brief, the case law they cited.
Okay, so well, that's interesting. However, it's not unusual that jurors, people will communicate with somebody they've convicted. It's rare, but it happens. Okay. And she says that her therapist suggested she write to Scott. She's writing to him the same year, 2005. He gets sentenced in March of 2005, right? The verdict was December of 2004. So she's writing to him within the 12-month period. I don't know that she continued afterwards, but we know the letters I've seen cited have all been in 2005. Maybe was part of her sort of getting over this whole thing, because it took like 6 months of her life, like it did for all of us, right? And she was just completely immersed in experience unlike anything she ever had. So I don't find that those letters would justify giving him a new trial. You just heard Dave Harris say that the court has to, in a habeas, interpret evidence more favorable to the conviction or something. What the words, every interpretation in favor of conviction is to be taken, something like that, he said.
So interesting, though. Kirk, does it make a difference to you? Because one of the things that Nice shared in one of the interviews or testimony, I can't remember which, is the reason that the letter stopped is because after the People article came out that she said Scott Peterson stopped responding to her. Does that matter, Kirk?
Well, I don't know that matters so much, but I guess it could go to her state of mind, because she was not relieving her own trauma, if you will, but she was connected to Scott in some way, shape, or form. I mean, we hear her writing stuff about how he would have been a good dad, and this reference to little man, which is what she referred to her own kids as. So there was some kind of entanglement there that I think is really important for Mr. Peterson in terms of getting a new trial. I don't know that he's going to get one, but when I look at this process, when I think about procedural due process, I think, to me, Beth is breaking it down into little pieces. But to me, what it is, if we go back, we use the chicken soup analogy, I think that Mr. Peterson's attorneys made a good job of doing. When you put all that stuff together, the cumulative effect of all that, how can we say that was really a fair trial with someone like this on the jury, whether it was some negligence on the defense team's part or what have you? To me, it just doesn't add up.
Does it look bad, right? I think a lot of viewers have commented and said it just looks bad. I am so glad that I get to continue this conversation with both of you after we take a short break, because they are still on a break. We will get you back to that courtroom, but more analysis coming up here on Court TV Live.
Cat litter today.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Judge Ashely Wilcott. Of course, my honor to be with you as we are waiting any minute for court to resume in the Scott Peterson hearing that will determine whether or not he gets a new hearing. In the meantime, I want to continue our great analysis by former Court TV correspondent who covered the Scott Peterson trial, Beth and former criminal defense attorney Kirk Nurmi. All right, Beth, let's talk about just in general, comparing this to other cases. We know that the judge has to make a decision that she'll have 90 days, is my understanding, of issuing that opinion. But how would you compare this case to other cases that you've covered and tried in your experience?
Well, I'll tell you, Judge, that it is my experience, and I'm sure it's yours and Kirk's as well, that appellate courts look very closely at issues related to jury selection, jury deliberations, instructions to the jury. And if there's any error, that's very troubling. And that's what we saw happen in this case. He got a life sentence because of problems with jury selection. And look what the review is here.
Beth, I'm so sorry. This is a live picture, and Scott Peterson has just taken a seat. Let's go back into the courtroom for this hearing.